Scott Brown, he's the leader of the Celtic. Scott Brown, Captain Invincible. Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome back to the channel. Hope you enjoyed the introduction there. The reason that I sang that song was to say a big thank you to Stephen Brown in the chat, who has become a member of the Thunder Club. So thank you, Stephen. Remember, if you want to become a member of the 118 or Thunder Club or support the channel in any way, go down below, hit all those buttons, like and subscribe. You can use the QR code to become a channel member. It's good to see you on this Wednesday evening. It is the night before Celtic take on Braga in match day 2 of the UEFA Europa League, a game at Celtic Park. That means it's our first game at Celtic Park of this European, well, not technically of our European campaign, of this Europa League campaign. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the updates before that game that we got from Brendan Rodgers today at the press conference in relation to match fitness and injury issues, etc. In terms of what we might expect against Braga tomorrow. We'll of course get all your questions on the game and how Celtic approach that game tomorrow. And one thing that I want to start the stream talking about was the manager's comments this afternoon in relation to the ongoing protests by Celtic supporters and the ongoing feud between Celtic fans and Celtic board. Of course, it has been the hot topic at the club now for the whole season so far. Let's just be real. And tomorrow night there is a planned protest in place for 29 minutes of the game after 29 days of silence. Essentially the first half hour of the game against Braga tomorrow is planned to be a silent one for those taking part in the protest. However, Celtic have the power to call that off at any point, and Brendan Rodgers was actually asked about that this afternoon at his press conference and gave a very telling answer as to maybe what we should expect moving forward, and gave a very telling answer as to where he stands right now with the whole situation. So we're going to look at that in a moment. Of course, it's been a bit of a divisive one. Not everybody is best pleased with the suggestion of a silent protest, especially when you have such a big game like Braga, and I think that is understandable. However, after hearing the manager's comments today, and after hearing him basically ask for peace to be made and for dialogue to take place, which we'll once again look at his exact words in a moment or two, I mean, you can't deny it's not working. You know, if you've got the manager publicly coming out and saying, you know, we need this matter put behind us, and hopefully that the board and the fans can come together. The protests are clearly doing something, and that's, listen, protests aren't meant to be universally liked. Protests aren't meant to be comfortable. I'm not going to fall into the same things that I've been saying for the last few weeks now. But the purpose of them is to bring forward change, to invoke a change, and to start a dialogue with the parties that are relevant. And you've got the frontman of it all, the spokesman for the club, coming out and saying, let's get this sorted. That's a sign of progress. And I think it's maybe indicative of what to expect moving forward. So I think we should probably talk about Brendan Rodgers. We should probably talk about his comments. I'm going to bring that up for you right now if I can get the right screen. I want to make sure I've got the right screen for you. That's not the right one. That's the right one. Yeah. So Brendan Rodgers spoke about it very honestly today, and this is one of the tabloids that picked it up this afternoon, saying, so I guess my message for me, probably in the long term, is that hopefully both parties can sit down and respect the differences and find a solution so that we can all pull together again. Because that's what has always been key here at Celtic. Until that happens, I need to manage the team to maximise what we can get out of them. And knowing that the team will be very focused on getting the results that the club wants. It won't change our approach. Our approach is the same. It's to start fast, get the front foot, and really impose our style in the game straight away. Always, whatever the reaction is to that, we have to control on the pitch. Really, that is what we have to do. Our focus is pretty much on the performance in the pitch. That's the only thing that we can control. I really hope the stadium is full, because that's what Celtic is all about for me. It's an incredible club, and their history is based around their supporters and what they bring. So he kind of signed all of that off, those thoughts off, by saying, I understand the frustrations, but I hope we have a full stadium here backing the team. So Brendan Rodgers pulling the likes of me back in, you know, somebody who was very vocal about the home cup ticket scheme and how I was thinking about cancelling it and all the rest of it and not going to these games. Brendan Rodgers rallying the supporters to try and get behind the team tomorrow. The next step is to get, you know, he mentioned it, the board on board, to get the board to put forward a reason to get supporters into the stadium and to fill Celtic Park. We know that this isn't a sellout going into tomorrow's game. It's not a sellout. There are tickets still available. If you want to go to that game, go to Celtic and get your tickets. If you want to go, if you want to be there to support the team, if you want to answer the manager's rallying cries, then you can do that because there's tickets available. We know there was a big drop-off on Home Cup ticket scheme members because of the amount of tickets that were available for the game. It was not the same as the Champions League. Champions League last year and the year prior, there was a handful of tickets that were available on general sale release day. You know, if you weren't there inside a minute to get them, that was it. You had no chance. Whereas now, the tickets for the game against Braga have been on sale for weeks, and there is still some available. It shows you the kind of drop-off in demand. And, you know, Brendan Rodgers obviously making clear the point that he wants to get this team confident with the fans in the stadium, and they want to get the team going with fans in the stadium. But he was reiterating the points that sort of Luke McCowan mentioned in the media these past few weeks, this past week. Luke McCowan came out and said that, you know, listen, we can only control what goes on in the park. We really don't have much to do outside of that. We can't control fans' protests. We can't control the fans' voice. And we don't have a position here to tell fans what to think or what to say. I think Brendan Rodgers has also kind of cemented that with his comments today. But I think most importantly, the thing that is going to be most significant coming out of this press conference this afternoon is that top paragraph. I suppose my message is probably for the longer term that hopefully both parties can sit down and respect the differences and find a solution so we can pull together. And that to me is effectively Brendan Rodgers saying, let's get this sorted publicly. Now, I don't know if he's been told to say that. Once again, I don't know if it's indicative of what to expect moving forward. I don't know if it's just his own genuine thoughts and feelings. You can never tell in these situations, especially when everything is so delicate at the minute between what feels like every major stakeholder at the club, fans, shareholders, owners, manager, players. You know, everything kind of feels that there's a level of delicacy around it. And I think that Brendan Rodgers is to an extent just speaking about his own feelings. I think he, just like the supporters, wants there to be a unanimous feeling of moving forward. He wasn't backed. He spoke about that today as well, by the way. He spoke about how in January he still wants a Nicholas Kuhn replacement. Brendan Rodgers still speaking as if he's going to be here and wants to be here in the long term moving forward, and he wants to be in charge of this squad that improves. But I think he just wants everybody back on side. And if the Celtic board can't pick up on that, if the Celtic board can't listen to their own manager coming out and saying, let's sort this, what hope have you got? And it would basically sum up everything that's wrong with the guys at the top. It would sum up everything that's wrong with Michael Nicholson and Peter Lawwell and Chris Mackay and Dermot Desmond and everybody else. Because if you've got somebody who has been such a polarising figure as well for a number of years due to the way he departed the club on the first occasion. If you've got him coming out and saying what should be happening, and then for the ones above him to disagree and not move forward on that, it would be very damning on their ability to act in the best interests of the club. So I think this is a huge week now moving forward. It will be interesting to see if Celtic fans are met with a response of sorts. It will be interesting to see if there is something that comes of all of this, especially when you've got Brendan Rodgers coming out and saying, you know, I want this to be sorted. So I'll be watching with a keen eye. That was probably the most significant thing that happened at the press conference this afternoon, and we'll see what comes of it. Before we get into the Q&A session, a few other things. There's the house phone gone, which is great because there's nobody in here to pick it up, and that's just going to keep ringing and ringing and ringing. That is the beauty of live recording, I suppose. You can't do too much about it. The other things that were picked up on from the press conference today, Rio Hatate is back in training. I think he's available for selection tomorrow night. I think a lot of people will be against him being in the team tomorrow night anyway. I don't think a lot of people are really keen to see, including myself, to see Hatate in that starting 11, to be quite honest. So Rio Hatate is in training, probably will be available for selection, but I still anticipate him being on the bench tomorrow night. Apart from that, the fitness injury situation is as understood. it's the way that it's been these last few games. Not much else significant outside of that Rio Hatate return to training. And yeah, so that's that. He did speak about Paulo Bernardo, actually. The Portuguese press were asked about Paulo Bernardo and if he'd be involved tomorrow. Said he'll be in the squad. So if anybody was worried about him or wondering about that, he will be involved in the squad tomorrow. The only other final one is about Alistair Johnston, which isn't in relation to tomorrow's game. So this isn't injury news that goes into tomorrow because, of course, Alistair Johnston is nowhere near returning to the Celtic squad on an imminent basis. However, he will be in contention later this month, apparently. Brendan Rodgers said that he will join back training the week leading into the game against Dundee, which is after the international break. Brendan Rodgers has confirmed that that is working really well, or Ali is working really well right now. We should expect to see Johnston back soon. Hopefully he's eased back into the side after the international break. Of course, there is the whole question of whether Colby Donovan will play tomorrow, whether Anthony Ralston will play tomorrow. But it's nice to hear that Johnston is recovering so quickly, especially after being stretchered off the park, after being given a timeline that might have kept him out until as late as early December, late November. To have him back by the end of October would be fantastic for Celtic. So, yeah, pretty much Rio Hatate back in training, should be available for tomorrow, and Alistair Johnston could be back by the end of the month. And yeah, that's essentially it in terms of big news. As I said, the main talking point for me today is Brendan Rodgers' comments about the protests and how he's basically asking for Celtic fans and the board to engage in dialogue. So whether or not dialogue is brought forward by the club after Brendan Rodgers' rallying cries, we await to see. Let's turn on to your guys' questions. Will Celtic start scoring goals tomorrow? That is the title I led with heading into this stream because, of course, Celtic have been struggling for goals. We haven't scored many of them. We've only scored 8 in 6 league games this season in comparison to the 20 that we scored by this point last year. And we have seen almost half the amount of goals scored by Celtic but from this time last year to now. I think something around 37 goals were scored by Celtic. We're not too far over or under the 20 mark, I think, right now as well. So, yeah, listen, we need to start scoring goals. I want your questions. Let's engage your dialogue. That's what these streams are for. So I want to get tucked right into them. Zach, we'll start off with Zach, who says, I can't see why people are annoyed with Hatate. About half the squad has been the same, miles below their expectations. I agree to an extent. I think that you're right, Zach. I think many of the Celtic squad are guilty of not playing to their optimum abilities and have delivered well below the expectations. But I think Rio Hatate in particular has been especially bad in recent weeks, especially because you know how good he can be. And I think the problem with Hatate is it's not the first time for him where he is played at an inconsistent level. And I think that just annoys supporters. So, yeah, I think sometimes people get carried away and they maybe blow up things a bit more than they should. But I do believe that Rio Hatate's criticism at this moment in time, for as good a player as he is warranted. And I don't think he should be starting for Celtic tomorrow. Even if he was 100% fit, I wouldn't be starting Rio Hatate tomorrow. And that might seem bonkers to some. But I've not seen anything in recent months to suggest that he should. And until he does show that would be it for me. I do think that most players in the squad are deserving of the criticism as well. If anybody hasn't seen, Aaron brings up the point, by the way, about young Sean McArdle, who has, by the way, in case you've missed it, been loaned out to Partick Thistle. So Aaron raising the point, it's a shame that he didn't get a loan move to the Premiership. I guess the thing is, Aaron, we obviously we don't know the exact details behind the scene, but you've got to have a loan move on the table to get him inside the Premiership. And I just don't think many teams would have been after him in the Premiership right now. Even if you go down that bottom end, I don't think there's many teams that are ready to take a big gamble on a youngster like Sean McArdle at this moment in time. Even like a Livingston. I think they need the experience. If you're down the bottom, you need experience. You need that fight. You need that grit in your team. And that's something that McArdle doesn't have. So I'm quite accepting of the fact he's in the Championship. I think that Thistle's a good move, especially because they're, a team that should be fighting this season for promotion and should be towards that top end. I hope the loan move goes well for him. Of course, we've seen glimpses of what he can do, and I think there's a lot of promise surrounding young McArdle, and I hope that continues forward while he's at Partick Thistle. So we'll wait and see. Ewan asking the question of what my midfield three would be tomorrow. Bernardo, McGregor and McCowan for him. I think for me it would be Do you know, honestly, might be the same. Might be the same. Bernardo, McGregor, and McCowan. I'd be happy with either that or Bernardo, McGregor, and Engels. But Engels. But I think that I'm gonna go for. I think that I'm gonna go for the same as Union. To be quite honest, if it was me picking a team, I think I'd go for that. What happens in December and January when the African Cup of Nations is on? Says Neil. Who will score the goals then? Brendan Rodgers said it with his own lips today, his own mouth. He still wants the Nicholas Kuhn replacement, and he will ask Dyson Maeda to play on the right wing until we get the Nicholas Kuhn replacement. Brendan's not at fault for that. You know, it's the poor recruitment, it's the team, the board that are at fault. And hopefully we can hang on until then, and then maybe we'll bring an influx of goals into the side in January. So that's really my only answer I can give to that for now, Neil. Aside from the obvious, you know, Dyson Maeda, you'd like to hope will score goals. You'd maybe like to hope that, you know, the likes of Yang can chip into goals, I suppose, but that's not the position you want to be in come January, so we'll talk about that then. Austin Trusty needs to start. I actually disagree for once, Brooklyn. I don't think Austin Trusty does need to start. I think that the centre-half partnership is Liam Scales and Cameron Carter-Vickers tomorrow and should remain that. And people will be like, what? I can't believe Ryan's saying that. Liam Scales has arguably been Celtic's best player this season. I can't believe I'm saying that. In recent weeks, he's been brilliant. I don't think he has been Celtic's best player. I'm just saying that you could put forward the argument for it. I think that Vickers has been, if anything, I think Vickers has been Celtic's player of the season so far. I think he's been monumentally good. I think he's been unbelievable. So, I don't think they did disturb that. Listen, I've been Scales' biggest critic, but you don't drop players who are in form, and Liam Scales is in form at the minute. So, unlucky for my Philly boy, my man, Austin Trusty. I love the guy, but he's nowhere near getting into the team tomorrow, I don't think. Let's keep flying through some of the comments. Defence shouldn't be changed other than Donovan back in. It's the one area we've been strong this season. Yep, that's basically what I was saying. I would like to see Donovan come back in tomorrow, and I hope that is the case. Let's see. Well, Brendan is to blame about the current state of the team. No winger is in form. Is there really no right winger in the under-21s that can trap a ball? Kieran, if you think that there's wingers in that under-21s team who are going to come in here and blow Celtic's season apart and become this next big thing, I hate to tell you, ain't happening. This is the same things that people said about Karamoko Dembele and Rocco Vata. Were they good enough? No, nowhere fucking near it. There's nobody in that B team that's going to come in and be good enough in the forward line. There's nobody that's going to be good enough to come in and play at Europa League level. The fact that we're relying on James Forrest and Yang isn't down to the manager. You can't get form out of players who are simply not good enough. That isn't a slight on James Forrest, but James Forrest is the... I don't even know how to sum it up. James Forrest, love him to bits. He's just there. And he'll always be there. But it doesn't mean that he should be there. It's strange that we find ourselves in this position. And Yang was a player who was signed under circumstances when Ange left the club and Rodgers came in, when we were in this bit of an unknown area, who was clearly just never, ever good enough. And yeah, I don't think Vata or Dembele are good enough, hence the reason. How are they good enough if they're playing in the English Championship or below? That's not good enough for Celtic. It's not. How many players... Let's go to the English Championship and look at the recruitment that Rangers have done from there. How have they done up here in Scottish football? Pish. Celtic have signed one good player from the Championship in recent years. It's Matt O'Reilly. It was a great signing. It was one that we'll look back on with great fondness and one that was fantastic for this club. But if you're playing at that level, if you're going from Celtic to there, that's your ceiling. That's it, I'm afraid. If they were that good, they would have moved on and they would have been elsewhere by now, but they're not. So I'm not gonna sit here and pretend, because it's just simply not the case. It's just not. I don't mean to sound bitter about it. I wish the best of them. You know, I've got nothing against Vata and nothing against Dembele, and I've got nothing against the B team players who I'd love to see come through and do well at Celtic. But if you're playing for the likes of fucking Blackpool and QPR, you're far from Celtic level, I'm afraid. Far from it. But anyway, that's a discussion for another day, I suppose. Jota will be like a new signing in January, says Ewan. Still need another winger. Forrest is ageing and Yang isn't it. I can't disagree with any of that, and I hope that is the case for Jota. But I will be nervous, you know, because coming back from those injuries is very, very difficult. You know, it's never easy, and I think that's one of those ones that I'll be waiting with. Is it bated breath? Yeah, I'll be waiting. I'll be waiting, and I'll be nervous to be. That's right. Matt O'Reilly was actually League One. Fair enough. That's right, MK Dons in League One. Good spot from whoever scouted him, by the way. Now, mate, it's funny because he wasn't even first choice. First choice was that him at Middlesbrough. Why are we getting dragged into this anyway? Who gives a shit? 3 videos in the one day. Ryan's on fire. Where's the third video came from? I've only uploaded the podcast. If somebody hacked my channel and uploaded another, I can't remember. How did Karamoko go from being compared to Xavi Simons to being in the English Championship? Did Celtic just ruin his development or something? I'm not turning this into a stream where we talk about. I'm not going to turn this into a Karamoko Dembele stream. God. The thing that I would say is Karamoko was always going to struggle physically with the game, and at Celtic, and not to sound like Gordon Strachan, but there is an element of truth in all of that. And ultimately, you can do well at these levels of football, whether it's under 15s, under 16s, under 17s, under 18s, under 21s. But if it's not going to translate into the professional game, that gets found out very, very quickly. I don't think Celtic ruined his development by any stretch. I just think it was never easy for him to get into the team, and I think it was a couple of fitness related issues as well. But hey, listen, it is what it is. Let's keep going. Let's keep it quick. Can we get some non-Karamoko Dembele related questions in the chat, please? That would be fantastic. I don't know how we've got the Europa League tomorrow night, lads. Much bigger situation to talk about. That's right, but I knew there was an injury related thing that came up. What's a good part-time job? Looking for one after school hours. Tesco. I'll always suggest Tesco. It's always there. Always get yourself to Tesco. Always get there. If I have to watch Forrest take the ball from the right wing and dribble to the middle of the edge of the box without even trying to move forward, I'll be found dead at the bottom of the Clyde. Listen, I was talking to my dad the other day, and I came up with a comparison for James Forrest, and I can't remember what it was now. And I was proud of it, as I'm going to use that on YouTube the next time that I need to. And I have just totally forgot what that comparison was. But listen, I admire the hell out of him, and he still gives it his all when he plays for Celtic. But he's clearly just past it. Like, he should not be in the position that he's in right now. He should be getting wheeled out for commemorative 10-minute spells when you're winning 4-5-0 in a game. He should not be getting wheeled out at half time in a big European game. Shouldn't be. And that's just the position that we found ourselves in, sadly. And as I said, I admire the hell out of him. But aye, the league is my priority now. Motherwell game more important. That's it. I mean, listen, nothing wrong with prioritising the league, but I would say that European ambition is still top of the charts for me, and I still think that I want Celtic to be making a dent in this competition somehow. Now, at this stage in time, do I see any feasible way in which Celtic can make a dent in the Europa League, go far in the Europa League? No, absolutely not. I don't think we're anywhere near it. But I think that it's certainly something that come January, I'd like to hope we can look at in a different light. If we pick up our form, if we make some good signings in January, Celtic should be... Listen, this isn't arrogance. This isn't a place of overconfidence. If we don't do this, it's embarrassing, and this is probably where I would turn my opinion on the manager. Celtic should be a guarantee to be in one of the next rounds of Europa League football, whether that's the playoff by finishing top 24 or whether that's top 8. As long as they're in the next top 24, I'm happy. I'm fine with that. And then after that, I feel like I want to just see such a big improvement in the team that makes me go, right, the knockout football, it matters now. It starts now for Celtic. But we'll deal with that come January or whatever. Connor with a £5 donation. Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. I tip my hat to you. You're a legend. He's saying, alright, Ryan, back home from work. Sriracha over Tierney tomorrow. Oh, 2-0 to Celtic. I get Michelin sorted tomorrow. If you see me in Michelin, give me a wave. I'll be there. I'm booked up. I'll be over in Herring, I believe. Is that where they're from? Herring? I'll be there anyway. I've booked up. I'm going. And the good thing is you don't need to put a bloody penny into the club to do so. So that's an interesting one. Sriracha over Tierney. I think that after his performance at the weekend, a lot of people like the look of Sriracha, including me. I want to hang this very hat on the fact that he will be the first proper good South American at Celtic because we've not had one. have we? The closest we've had is Emilio Izaguirre, who's from Central America, not from South America. We've never had a really good South American. And I would love Sriracha to be the... And listen, I don't think he'll play enough to become like a very good South American player, but I want to at least look back on him fondly. And he performed well at the weekend. I'd like to see more of him as the season goes on. I would like to see enough to suggest perhaps signing him permanently at the end of the season as well. But I think that Tierney will play tomorrow. And to be honest, I think that Tierney should play tomorrow. Look, I like the look of Sriracha as well, but I would be starting Kieran Tierney. But I'm not, like, hating on your opinion. Listen, if Sriracha was playing, Sriracha would be playing. And I'd take it. Aaron says it's bad that I take a draw tomorrow. Don't think it's as must win as it made out. The way that I worded it, right? The way that I worded it on my podcast last night, if you've watched it yet, is... in many ways, this game isn't must-win for Celtic, and that might sound ludicrous at first. But if we weren't in the situation that we are right now, a draw tomorrow night wouldn't be a terrible result. A draw tomorrow night would spell qualification is still very possible. The magic number is 12 points, and Celtic could still very feasibly get 10 points from the remaining 6 games. Very feasibly. Celtic could get 10 points from 4 games, in my opinion, let alone 6. But this is where the kind of the situation changes, and you've got to take many different caveats into account. The situation for Celtic is it's must win because of the circumstances, because of where we are, because of our lack of goals, because of our lack of quality, and because of the feeling around the club at the minute. The game has become must win. So I think in any other year, if you draw with Braga and both teams play well, you probably leave Celtic Park and go, do you know what? Cool. Would have preferred a win, should be winning, but we both played well, cool. But I don't think Celtic fans would accept that tomorrow night. I think it all depends on your place on the scale of negativity right now. But I think that that's something that will be criticised if we drop points tomorrow. Criticised quite heavily. I think Celtic do need to win the game, but I do get where you're coming from, Aaron, and I do agree to an extent with you, to be quite honest. Right, we've got a lot of things flying in that I want to answer in the last 5 minutes of the stream, so I'm going to try and get through them quick fire. Given Dyson wants out and the world knows, will we get a smaller transfer fee, says DM. Yes, we definitely will. We won't make as much as we probably wanted, and especially because we're running further into his contract as well. Thank you, B. I appreciate that, mate. Nicole saying Ralston will start. I have a feeling he will too, but I really hope he doesn't. I think Donovan should be starting, and I'd be very disappointed if Donovan's left on the bench. Rayan saying the lack of goals in this team is so easy to explain. Kun, Kyogo, Jota and Ida all lost. That's 79 goal contributions. With Maida away in January possibly, that's 120 goal contributions lost. Exactly. And then look what you... Once I said it in my video the other day, and I don't want people misunderstanding what I'm saying, but this is the honest truth. The thing is, you've replaced it with Kelechi Iheanacho and Sebastian Tenetke, who scored a combined or contributed to a combined less than 15 goals last year. Not saying that doesn't mean that I'm happy they're here or I think they can do well, but that isn't suitable replacements. And that's what's happened. You're right, Ryan. It is pretty much self-explanatory, to be quite honest. We should play 3 at the back with KT at left centre-back, Sriracha at left wing-back, says Andy Butch. Like the idea on paper, Rodgers is definitely not going to change the system, and I don't think that it's maybe the game to do so. Yeah, I think that's the kind of thing you have to do when the stakes maybe aren't quite as high. I'm not a tactician, I'm not a coach, I'm not a manager. It's easy for all of us to say these things about tactical changes and systems when we don't manage them, but I do understand where you're coming from, and I wouldn't be adverse to change if it ever comes further down the line. Thank you, Tony. I appreciate that, mate. Let's see. Listen, mate, quick question. When you go to Celtic Park, do you ever take a dump in the toilet? If not, is it because you never needed and plan... I can't believe I've even bothered reading it out. The quick answer to the question is I never have and never will. Never, ever, 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 ever. I have not been to the brand spanking new Superstar at Queen Street yet, actually, Aaron. I haven't. And I don't intend on being there anytime soon. So we'll wait and see. But I have not been to it yet. Listen, I think, see the one that was already on Argyle Street? I've walked past it millions of times. But I've only been inside that store maybe 3 or 4 times in my whole life. In the 25... I've lived in Glasgow my whole life. I've lived in Glasgow since the day I was born. I was born in the Rotten Row Infirmary or Rotten Row Hospital, whatever it was called. I was born and raised in Easterhouse in Garfamlock. And I have been here this whole existence. Lived in Denniston very briefly when I was in the flat with David and co. And I've still only been in that store 3 times maybe in my life. I'm not a superstore frequenter. You know, I don't see why you would have to be, to be quite honest. Do I think we'll keep Kelechi once his year's up? Depends how it goes by the end of the year, I would say. It's too early to tell. If he keeps playing to the level he's been playing so far, then yeah, I think we might. I am a private pooper. Thanks very much, mate. You're welcome, B. That is absolutely fine. That is, maybe didn't really want to answer it, but I did answer it, and I hope that you could. I hope you would appreciate it. No, I'm no for Quarantine. Most of the crew are. Most of the crew, but not me. I'm not a Quarantine boy. I went to school in Quarantine. But I'm not from Quarantine. I'm not from Quarantine. Look at me doxing myself. I mean, it's hardly a fucking secret, Hardly a secret. Right, let's get a couple more before we wrap things up. Let's go out with a bang. Thank you to everybody who has tuned in on this Wednesday evening. It is much appreciated, and I like that. Let's see, couple more. What do you think of FC26, Pish? One more. Come on, give something Celtic related. How long do you think the board will really take to reply? Listen, I don't know. I don't know. The way that they move forward and the way that they do things is evident for all to see. They don't like communicating. They don't like dealing with things face on. And they will continue to hide as long as they can. The thing is that Brendan Rodgers has publicly came out today and said that they need to speak to the supporters. And I'm hoping that that is what will actually take us forward and will actually invoke some conversation. Whether it does or not, completely different story. We just need to wait and see. But that's me done for tonight, ladies and gents. I will be live again tomorrow before the game. And we will talk about everything before that as well. Brendan Rodgers asking for a full stadium. Does that mean I give my services to the club? Do I go? I'm undecided. I'll be perfectly frank. Thank you. See you soon. Channel members will be live as well in the next couple of days too. Till then.